Louis Theroux. I've assembled a series of interviews from my own home. The idea is that we can dig a little deeper, peel back the layers and find out who they really are. A free-flowing exchange of ideas, reflecting on what's going on now, but also looking back at the past. And featuring, at no extra cost, extraneous family noises in the background and dodgy microphones. Two people communing through the miracle of the interweb at long distance, and yet so very close. To hear new episodes as soon as they go live, just subscribe to Grounded with Louis Theroux on BBC Sounds.
Hello, I'm Angela Barnes and welcome to the Friday Night Comedy Podcast. Parliament's back this week and this time it's virtual. So I thought, for a laugh, I'd have a go at Zoom bombing the House of Commons. Here we go. I'm in. Right, it's worked. I've got MPs all over my screen. Look, there's Keir Starmer at the top and there's Anne Widdecombe. That's funny, I thought she'd left. And oh, there's William Pitt the Younger. Wait a minute. Yep, I see what's happened here. I'm on Google Images. I thought they were all being very still and silent. Anyway, while I try and figure this out, here's this week's episode of the News Quiz. Enjoy.
Welcome to the News Quiz with your host, Angela Barnes.
Hello and welcome to this second lockdown edition of the News Quiz. Now, while we're not coming to you from the iconic BBC Radio Theatre in London, I am coming to you from my living room, which has its very own sense of history in the form of a carpet stain that definitely predates Brexit. Now, there are, of course, plus points to recording the News Quiz in this way. For instance, I'm able to drink this gin straight from the bottle rather than have it disguised as a water jug on the table. So it really is swings and roundabouts. So let's start this week with this Guinness Book of World Records qualifying criteria sent in by Susan Coop and her 10-year-old son, James. Read by Zeb Soanes.
This record is for the oldest living chicken. This record is to be attempted by a chicken.
Now let's meet the teams. In Team A, we have Lucy Porter and Hugo Rifkind.
Hello.
Hello.
And in Team B, it's Tom Allen and Sophie Duker.
All right.
Hello.
Hello. How are you all coping?
Oh, I am living La Vida Lockdown. I'm having such a festive time. It's a holiday that never ends and isn't a holiday.
I don't know about you, I'm quite glad this is an audio medium right now because my hair's shocking. Like, my roots are more of a grey area than Jacob Rees-Mogg's investment history at the moment. I don't. Are you managing to maintain your hygiene standards, people?
I would say mine are no worse than normal. And just sort of, wear the same clothes every day and just generally have the demeanour and style for radio, but in the comfort of my own home.
Tom Allen, I have to say, has rocked up. We're all looking at each other on Zoom. Obviously, the people at home can't see us. But Tom Allen's rocked up in a full three-piece suit and pocket square. I'm really impressed.
We did a sound check earlier, I don't mind telling the listeners, and I'd just been for a run. That's basically the humble brag I wanted to get in. I went for a run. I'm not very good at it. I run very slowly. But, it's basically power walking. But I went for a run, and then I came back and I thought, no, I can't go on the BBC. Even in this unprecedented time, I cannot go on the BBC not wearing a suit. So I put on a suit. I got changed. I had a shower as well, by the way, just so you know. I'm not putting on...
Angela, you say it's a three-piece suit. We actually have no evidence that it's more than a two-piece suit.
Oh, is
it's
no
actually
waistcoat?
Double-breasted. It's a double-breasted, actually, because it's a bit cooler for the summer. But I also
we've got no evidence that you're not naked from the waist down, though.
Yeah, I sort of meant what was going on below,
Oh, you meant the trousers.
I'm nude from the waist down.
You can see my trousers. Yeah, I've got trousers on and everything.
Now we can all see he's naked, as expected.
Not wearing trousers, yeah.
Lucy Porter, how are you coping? You've got little ones at home, right?
Well, I have, and I love all these people who are going on social media and saying, of course, the thing about the lockdown is if you haven't started a new hobby or started a new business, then you didn't lack the time, you just lacked the motivation. Because I am flying the flag for people who've done nothing of any use whatsoever, apart from grow a bit more hair and develop a very different relationship with my family. Not closer. Closer physically, but very different. Very different.
Brilliant. Well, now we've assessed the state of the panel. I think we should probably crack on. Lucy Porter, who is virtually running the country?
Well, this, of course, is the fact that the House of Commons has gone virtual, which sounds way more exciting than it actually is. It's not like Tron or any of those sort of cool things. It just means that there's only a few MPs and the rest of them are coming in via Zoom. which meant that we had our first Prime Minister's Questioned on Wednesday with Keir Starmer. Sorry, it's a bit hot in this recording studio. It was sort of like he was Dominic Raab's dad and he was telling him off. And it was just all a bit awkward, which, was a good vibe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so what's fascinating about it is the whole Zoom virtual parliament thing. The reason why, the way that's happened is because Lindsay Hoyle, the Speaker, wrote to the Leader of the House, Jacob Rees-Mogg, presumably because the electric telephone wasn't available. And so it's basically, it's sort of fascinatingly, it is Jacob Rees-Mogg, the most archaic and ancient of MPs, who's kind of dragged Parliament into this sort of modern world where they now can sit virtually. And in a way, although it seems counterintuitive, he's kind of the perfect person to have done this, because if you're in Parliament and you need to socially distance, actually the distance you all need to keep from each other is precisely one reclining Jacob Rees-Mogg. So it's weirdly fitting. I thought the main thing I was disappointed by, though, is I thought when they all sort of came in on their Zoom screens, I thought some of them should have been had done one of those fake backgrounds where they were pretending to still be in the House of Commons, even though they weren't, just to fool people.
I love the backgrounds people have on their Zoom calls. I mean, it's especially pressured for MPs, but you see it on the news every day when someone's coming in. You've got to have a great bookshelf. You've got to have a little life on there. You've got to have Donna Tartt on there. You've got to make sure, there's no use putting up your Captain Corelli's mandolin. No one's going to take you seriously. Suddenly, you've got to have the best bookshelf ever imaginable behind you. Maybe a guitar. Why not? Make people hate you, but make them respect you.
I'd love it if one of them just had all the Sweet Valley High books.
I think the thing about Zoom calls, though, is that you only have to have that little rectangular box. That's the only bit of yourself you need to present to the world. When I was watching Ian Blackford, I was like, this man gives me really strong sat in his swimming trunks energy.
The one I always love on the news is Matt Hancock, because Matt Hancock, when he goes on the news from his house, he seems to deliberately be sitting in he's just got the weirdest house. It really freaks me out. It's like one time there was this massive kind of mural of the Queen on what looked like a giant dartboard, which was odd. But normally he's in this kind of this very narrow red corridor, very red, sort of blood red corridor full of bookshelves. And there are people on Twitter going how does he get in? Because all you can see is these really tight walls and his face looming right up.
Who was missing from virtual Parliament?
The Prime Minister.
The Prime Minister, indeed.
It'd be interesting to see, and we wish him well. I hope he's feeling better. But when he comes back, will it be sort of to great acclaim? And I think that Dominic Raab and Matt Hancock are making him look very good. When they were up against Keir Starmer, it was they looked like the two guys who'd been left on duty in the bakery the day before the Great Fire of London. There was that sort of slightly nervous vibe about them.
This was the news that this week saw a hybrid parliament where parts of the legislature were operated via video link. This was the first ever video session of Parliament. Well, except for that last one before they broke up for Christmas and the Speaker let them watch Paddington 2 as a special treat. 2 points to Lucy. Everyone, have a listen to this.
Lovely.
I was enjoying that.
Everybody, which celebrities have been sent back to school?
Oh, it's the BBC are doing their homeschooling thing.
Mm-hmm. They are indeed.
And it's Danny Dyer's going to teach history, apparently. And I just thought, can you imagine the whole cast of EastEnders going to get involved? I know they're not making episodes at the moment. Are we going to have Phil Mitchell teaching bullying, or maybe Ian Beale teaching us how to wear horrible coats, or Doc Cotton teaching us how to smoke?
I think it's nice, though, that all the celebs are sort of chipping in and teaching what they know. So you've got Danny Dyer, who's teaching history. You've got David Attenborough, who's basically doing geography. And they've got one of the Strictly dancers teaching the kids infidelity. So I think it's nice.
If David Attenborough's teaching geography, am I the only one who was a little bit upset that he won't be narrating the sex ed class? That's...
Well, and they've got Jodie Whittaker dropping in as Doctor Who quite a lot of the time, which seems perilous, because if you've got Brian Cox talking about the solar system, going, here's the Horsehead Nebula. And it's what's that? No, that bit's a TARDIS. Yeah, and it's great. Everyone's failed their GCSEs. Brilliant.
I'm so emotional about all the things people are doing for kids, because basically them educating my kids means I don't have to.
It's a very BBC thing, isn't it? You couldn't imagine Channel 5 doing this, could you? Every subject being taught by Jane McDonald. It sort of... it does kind of make me feel proud of the BBC. And then I think you could really make a BBC school. you can still put kids in detention, but you just call it school and extra slice.
It's important to acknowledge, like, it wasn't that long ago that the government was saying, oh, the BBC, let's get rid of that licence fee, let's get rid of that. And suddenly it's like, oh, we do need the BBC because we'll need them to teach all the children and to relay all the information we need to convey. And, I mean, the BBC is so efficient, it's still telling people how to wash hands. Like, who at this point in the crisis doesn't know how to wash their hands? Every now and then, it still flashes up in the live news feed. Like, if you, I mean, have you not been listening? It's like basically waking up today and being like, there's a what virus? What?
This is the BBC's plans to help educate the nation's school children during the COVID-19 crisis. Obviously, we at the BBC will be taking this opportunity to indoctrinate your children with our far-right agenda. Or is it far-left agenda? I can't keep track anymore. 2 points to everyone. Tom, who is not down with the lockdown?
Oh, is it some people in America have been protesting the lockdown because there's been various reasons they've cited, and some of them are sort of kind of brought out by far-right groups. Others are people just worried about their jobs and their livelihoods and the sort of infringement of civil liberties. It's a very unnerving sight to see people wanting to protest science in the same way that in medieval times people would kill witches. But I think as well it's a sign that maybe a lot of America hasn't just realised how to cope with a lockdown in the same way that we have. You know, like we're really good at maybe screaming into a pillow or using the clap for carers time to really just bash the hell out of a saucepan and show our anger that way. Or maybe learning how to have a holiday in our home by just locking ourselves in the bathroom. Maybe you can do whatever you like. You know, you can dress up as Gloria Hunniford. You can be imaginative. You can be whoever you want. And I feel like a lot of the Americans maybe haven't realised that this is a time to embrace and to be creative with this downtime. I mean, it's. I think as well. I mean, I know what it's like. A few weeks ago, we had the crisis with the flour. I think you will all remember. We couldn't do any baking. We couldn't make our own bread, which is the
which for you obviously is a big problem, isn't it?
Well, I have no life. What am I doing? Just whipping. I'm just making meringues. It's just my whole life is meringues. I think flour's back on the shelves now. But there was a time when we couldn't get flour. A police officer told me that there were drug dealers putting cocaine in flour just to bulk it out.
Have you been watching these protests? I mean, it almost makes you miss Fathers for Justice, didn't it?
I was watching footage of it was the protest, I think it was in Michigan, and it's the only protest I think I've ever seen where, I swear to God, people were literally waving banners while still in their cars.
Amazing.
And it's like, you don't leave the house anyway. What are you doing? You've gone to a protest. You can't be bothered just waving it out the window.
Drive-by protest, I would do that.
Yeah.
I feel like the logic of a lot of these protesters is very warped. Like, one of the slogans is, give me liberty or give me death. And I don't think they realise that it's very much a package deal at the moment. Things that they will get if they go outside.
There's been some sort of interesting approaches to it from America. Trump is adamant that his ratings are soaring. Also, he's obsessed with how his daily briefing, the rating is outdoing things like sporting events and even the final of The Bachelor, apparently.
Yeah.
And I just sort of thought it's not really the same thing because, you know, no one's watching The Bachelor going, oh, I wonder who's going to get the rose at this point on the jetty, you know, looking all romantic in a beautiful dress, and, you know, what romance is going to erupt here. Do you know what would make this better? If we could also find out about a worldwide pandemic. Like, no one's, you know, they're not the same audience.
Well, the other thing people have pointed out on social media is that, of course, these are the people who for years have been preparing to, I've got my bunker and I've got my tins and I've got my water, and now they're the ones who are saying, no, we want to go out, actually. But I think the reason it's because they all went into their bunkers and they realised that if all you've got is beans and tinned meat, then it is only about 3 weeks before you'll die of the fumes of your own fleetus anyway. So.
Who else has been... let's play a game of who's been the most outrageous despot this week, and it wasn't Trump, I don't think. Have you seen any others?
Bolsonaro.
Oh, Bolsonaro, yeah. God love him. What's he been up to?
Yeah, presidents everywhere are like, we want to be part of the problem. Some people rioting outside my house. I'm going to go join them, which is what Bolsonaro did. He joined an democracy rally, some radicals doing anti-democracy rally outside, which was alleged was a stunt to distract from COVID-19. But unfortunately, Bolsonaro just coughed constantly during the protest, which immediately reminded people of COVID-19.
I mean, you can understand, like, the kind of, these, sort of, both America and Brazil, they're incredibly worried about the kind of economic turmoil, but it's like, yes, so is everyone. And they're going, well, we don't want to live in lockdown. It's like, no, nobody does. This isn't anybody's fun. This isn't anybody's kind of, this is the jolly thing we've decided to do. It's like, everybody hates this. Just because you're protesting doesn't mean you hate it more than other people. It just means you haven't realised that there isn't really an alternative yet.
Oh.
This is the news that people in many US states have been protesting about lockdown restrictions to their freedom. And to everyone complaining about how restrictive all this is, I've got 2 words for you. Sports bras. 2 points to Tom Allen.
Oh, thank you.
And at the end of round 1, the scores are Lucy and Hugo have 2 points and Tom and Sophie have 4. Now, before we start round 2, we've been sent this cutting from the Rounds Roundup newspaper. And it says, with the council seemingly unable to curb dog fouling, some locals are taking the matter into their own hands. Thank you to Jonathan Plough for sending that in. Hugo, have a listen to this. Hugo, who has no scrubs?
Well, anyone. I mean, the NHS and care workers. Look, finally, this week, we've had a shipment of much needed PPE from Turkey. It's taken a long time to get here. It seems to have had a harder time getting out of Turkey than that bloke in Midnight Express who hid the hash in his shoes getting out of Turkey. The whole business of it, it's been really, I mean, it's been chaotic and awful, but also really weird. So you had last week Robert Jenrick, the housing minister. He's the one who looks like a sort of terrible provincial museum waxwork that you can never guess is meant to be David Cameron. He did the briefing on Saturday, and he said the shipment of PPE from Turkey is arriving the next day, on Sunday, and it didn't. And then on Sunday, Gavin Williamson, it was his turn. He's in charge of schools that aren't open, so he's really busy. He said on Sunday, no, we didn't say it was going to arrive today. We just hoped it was going to arrive today. And we now hope it's going to arrive tomorrow. But they were still just hoping because they hadn't paid for the track delivery option. But it didn't arrive on Monday either. And then by Tuesday, Turkey said they'd only ordered it on Sunday anyway, like when you lie to your mum about her Amazon delivery present turning up late. And finally, it has turned up. It turned up on Wednesday or Thursday, I think. And it's, I mean, thank God, it's not very funny. It's 84 tons of vital, life-saving stuff, 400,000 surgical gowns. But it's really weird just the way this all worked, because you'd think if we have to buy this stuff from Turkey, that would suggest we're not making any ourselves, except we are making loads ourselves. You also had 36 British companies this week saying, no, we're making loads and we have to export it because the British government doesn't want it, sometimes to European countries. And Dominic Raab was asked about this on Wednesday, like, why are we exporting this stuff and importing this stuff as well? What the hell is going on? And he said, well, it's because standards in this country for PPE are different to standards in some other countries, like the way the French have really small faces, and in Spain the masks are totally different because they go over the eyes, like in Zorro. And the Italians talk a lot with their hands, so they have different gloves so they don't fly off. And I don't know, it just seems like something we're getting really badly wrong, and it's completely shameful.
It just seems, I mean, I've tried to get my head around this, and I've been using a war analogy, because I know that quite a lot of people like using those in times like this. And it's like if Churchill had sent all the guns to Germany and then made everyone fight in their PE knickers. That's what it feels like. And the whole thing with this situation in Turkey, that's like the political equivalent of when your taxi driver says he's just around the corner, but he's actually still in Turkey. It's not funny, is it? Because this is life or death things. All this is going on, this sort of manoeuvring. Meanwhile, our nurses are turning up to work in wetsuits and snorkels. Like, it's not good enough, is it?
Well, and there was the ventilators as well. The government said they missed out on an email inviting them to the EU ventilator scheme. Which, we've all missed emails. I missed a holiday in Canada because I misread the email that said free Niagara, but,
I think it's weird how sort of farcical everything is with the whole Turkey story. I was trying to, understand that it was like a Craig David song. It's like, we ordered PPE on Monday, it didn't arrive on Tuesday. Other things are still happening, but the government seems singularly incompetent. Like, ASOS can still sort next day delivery, but the UK government can't quite manage it. So I guess get your mask from Boohoo.
Yeah.
What more positive news has there been from Matt Hancock this week?
Vaccine potential.
Yes.
Oxford are starting trials for a vaccine, and best of all, it's going to be a British vaccine. thus lessening the prospects of us all having to inject ourselves with any of that dirty foreign health stuff. And they're testing. They want to test it first of all, I think, on 500 people. It's made apparently from a chimpanzee virus. But let's not worry about 28 days later right now.
So there's two universities in Britain are having a go at making the vaccine. You've got Oxford University and Imperial, who are just off the back of winning University Challenge. So they're really riding high at the moment at Imperial College.
It'd be great if it is a British vaccine and, we can just have tankers of it parading up and down the streets in a kind of North Korean show of triumph.
So much vaccine.
And then sell it to America and charge all those companies who want to charge the NHS for drugs, charge them fortunes to have it, I guess.
Oh, it'd be a nightmare, wouldn't it, if America develop it first? We'll end up having to call the vaccine Trump juice or something. That'd be. This is the story of the ongoing shortage of personal protective equipment for frontline NHS staff. Health Secretary Matt Hancock has said people should only use PPE when strictly necessary, which has really struck a blow for the authenticity of Holby City, who are now performing all operations in 1920s gas masks and one of those wacky barbecue aprons with the comedy boo.
That's it.
Sophie.
Yes.
Sophie, who's helping us to phone home?
Oh, yes. This is the very, very relaxing, not alarming story that the bad boy billionaire Elon Musk, also SpaceX CEO, has launched more than 300 satellites strapped to rockets into the sky. I think they were visible over the UK and Europe, and I think the plan is to eventually have about 40,000 because they're going to be beaming cheap, fast Wi-Fi into people's homes. Not death lasers or mind control beams, as we might have expected from Elon Musk, just Wi-Fi. I think it's weird that we're meant to believe that a man whose other company marketed flamethrowers as personal accessories is just trying to help us download Candy Crush quicker. But anyway.
You do wonder if anyone's keeping an eye, don't you? It's like, has anyone checked that that's definitely... I mean, I know he said on the form they were satellites. Has anyone double checked?
A load of people, like people who are very conspiracy theory-ish about other things, who think Bill Gates is trying to inject everyone with mind control serum, seem to be fine with Elon Musk. It's like somehow he's getting away with it. And I think, because normally we wouldn't have noticed so much, it's just because we're all staring up at the night sky a lot more and it's a lot clearer. And we took the kids out, like one of the things that they say to do with your kids is, go out and, show them the stars, which I'm absolutely rubbish at, because I don't... my husband's always having to go, no, it's Venus. That bright thing is Venus. I've told you a million times. Because we saw it.
Did it look more like an alien or more like a shooting star? Was it romantic?
I didn't feel moved to romance. I thought it was terrifying.
I like how those are your two options as well, Sophie, like alien, romance. Alien or romance.
A lot of people did think they were shooting stars, and I just think you've got to be careful if you end up wishing on an Elon Musk satellite, because it's going to end up owning your thoughts. That's this was a Starlink, isn't it? Is the name of the programme?
Starlink, yeah. There are lots of them really close together. But you can see quite a lot of satellites at the moment because the skies are so clear, because there's so little air pollution. We were out in the garden last week, and I think it wasn't Starlink because they were too far apart, but you could see them going right across the sky. And I sort of stared at them for ages, and then, like a lot of people, I think quite a lot about apocalyptic fiction at the moment. And I suddenly remembered Day of the Triffids, where it starts off with everyone looking at a meteor shower and everyone goes blind. And I thought, I'm going into the house right now. And my wife's like, what's wrong? I was like, just don't look at them anymore. Come on, listen. It's nothing.
I feel like Elon Musk himself is a stranded alien. When I found out that the programme that these satellites were launched under was called Starlink, I was like, well, who would want to link with the stars but an alien? And then who knows the most about aliens, I thought? Obviously, the men and women in black who promised to, protect the Earth against the scum of the universe, and Elon Musk is an anagram of lone scum.
Oh, my goodness.
It's a rock-solid theory.
What else might you have seen in the night sky this week?
Oh,
There was a meteor shower.
Yes, yeah. There was indeed. Yes, the Lyrids meteor shower. Did anyone see it?
The thing about looking at the stars, I've realised, is it's like a lot of things during lockdown. They're actually quite boring. Like
stars, they're just like us.
They're just like us. They're quite like, all these people are like, go and listen to the birds or notice the stars. I'm like, no, like, I've got so little to do anyway. Like, I'm not going to go and do something boring like that to make me feel even more bored.
I don't know. I think it's at least giving people an excuse to be found flat on their backs in their garden during lockdown. If nothing else. This is the news that Elon Musk's SpaceX company have so far launched 300 satellites in their Starlink program and have secured permission for a further 1,200. All part of an effort to help develop the parts of the world with the poorest internet connection, like Gloucestershire. 2 points to Sophie. And before we take a look at the final scores, has anybody heard about what composer Hans Zimmer's been up to this week?
Yes, I'm a huge fan of Hans Zimmer because people know him because he wrote film scores for things like Gladiator and he's won Academy Awards. But I know him best as the composer of the Going for Gold theme tune.
Yes!
Really?
Hans Zimmer, the famous composer, has been asked to provide sounds or music for BMW electric cars because they're worried they're too quiet and people are going to die because they're not going to hear cars coming. Yeah. So he's going to create some sort of soundscape, which I love. I love the idea that he's going to do some epic soundtrack for you reversing down your cul-de-sac in Slough. You know, it's going to be like Gladiator or whatever. So, yeah, I can't wait to hear what he comes up with.
I'm such a bad driver. I'd quite like it if my car could constantly just say sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. I don't understand. Sorry.
I always think that about a car horn. You know, car horn is really aggressive, isn't it? And sometimes what I want to go is, sorry, that was my fault. I didn't mean it. You know, when you can't say that with a beep,
should have an array. Yeah. It's supposed to be like,
my bad. You know, that's what
I'm here, isn't it? It's supposed to say, let people know you're there.
But I've had this conversation with my husband where I've said, oh, yeah, we should have like different sounds so I can say sorry or, oh, didn't see you there or whatever. And he said, yeah, you drive badly enough anyway without having to look for the different buttons. Which sound do you want now?
Oh, do you think with different pitches as well to mean different things? That would be quite nice.
It would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Hope you're doing okay in your life generally.
Have the clown one.
Apparently, this is a thing now with electric cars. By 2021, they all have to emit some sort of noise when they're reversing or when they're under 12 miles an hour to let pedestrians know they're coming. And the Nissan Leaf, that emits a whistling sound, and I thought that's definitely going to get women out the way because they'll just think it's a man in a white van heading towards them. And Mercedes have hired Linkin Park, the teen angst band of the 2000s, to create a sound, and they wanted to create a sound with more emotion. Which presumably the emotion being, no, I won't tidy my room, you're not my real dad.
I'd like a car that just went broom, broom in a really sarcastic voice. Broom, broom.
Actually, they could implement this as well. This could be a really good way of punishing drivers. You know, if you get caught doing 110 on the motorway, your car will only play the theme from Steptoe and Son.
I'd quite like mine to play the ice cream van music, just to really disappoint children.
Oh, lovely. Well, that brings us to the end of the news quiz, and the final scores are Lucy and Hugo have 6, Tom and Sophie also have 6. It's a draw.
Oh, lovely. Isn't that nice?
Thank you to our gorgeous panel. We'll leave you with a cutting sent in by Doug Hope from Motherwell about the return of Jordan Nobbs to the England women's football team, spotted on the BBC Sport website and read by Zeb Soanes.
Is it time for the Lionesses to unleash Nobbs?
And with that, goodbye.
Taking part in the news quiz were Tom Allen, Sophie Duker, Lucy Porter and Hugo Rifkind. In the chair was Angela Barnes and the news was read by me, Zeb Soanes. The chair's script was written by Catherine Brinkworth, Laura Major and Robin Morgan, with additional material from Simon Alcock and Michael Fabry. The producer was Susie Grant and it was a BBC Studios production.
Hi, I'm Catherine Bowhart. And I'm Sarah Keyworth. We're comedians separately and a couple together, and we're the host of You'll Do, the podcast that gives you a little insight into perfectly imperfect love. Yeah, forget nights in with this one and hashtag couples goals. We want to know the whys and hows of sticking with the people we love and asking a few of the questions that are meant to help us